This is an introduction video for SketchUp. You'll notice that when you open SketchUp, the default template has a blue and green background with a person in the foreground for scale. To change this, we can go up to Window, down to Preferences. And you'll see that we have a menu of different templates that we can choose from. Let's go down to Plan View, and you can either choose meters or feet and inches. Let's choose feet and inches and hit OK. Now when you open a new file, you'll see that the template is a lot more simple, just a white background with the axes. Let's bring in the large tool set too. Go up to View, Toolbars, Large Tool Set. So we're going to make a rectangle using the Line tool. The Line tool is this pencil over here on the toolbar. So go ahead and grab the Line tool and click and release in any white space. You'll see that the line actually follows your cursor. SketchUp has an inferencing system where you can actually snap this line to the axes. So let's go ahead and snap it to the red axis, click in white space, and then snap to the green, click, and we want this third line to be the same distance as this first. So to do that, we can actually hover over this endpoint, and you'll see this green dotted line come up. That actually is SketchUp telling you that we're referencing that endpoint and that distance is the same as the first. So go ahead and click on this first endpoint to close this face. You'll see this face was created whenever SketchUp has a closed loop of lines on the same plane. It creates a surface. If you get rid of one of those lines, it will delete the surface. To bring that back, just grab your line tool and trace that line over again. There are other ways to make shapes. There's actually a rectangle tool where it actually creates rectangles. There's a circle tool and a polygon tool. You'll notice that the default setting for the polygon tool is 6 sides. You can actually change this by typing in 9, enter. There are some other ways to make shapes in SketchUp. We have the rectangle tool. You actually click once and you'll see that the opposite corner of the rectangle follows you. You click again and it creates a rectangle. We have the circle tool. You click once and it actually creates a circle from the center point and measures the distance of the radius. So if you wanted to make a specific size, you could just type in the radius and hit enter, and SketchUp will actually make the circle to that radius. So we could type in 5 feet, enter, and as you can see, it created a 5-foot circle. If you want to change the number of segments in the circle, you can right click on the line and go to Entity Info, and you'll see this options window pops up and it shows you what layer it's on, how big the radius is, and how many segments it has. The segments basically tells you how many sides you want the circle to have, how round you want it to be. So you can make it lower by typing in 18, hit enter. You can see that it changes the number of segments in the circle, adding or getting rid of detail. This is the same for the polygon tool. You'll notice that by default the polygon tool is 6 sides. If you wanted to change that, you could double click on the single click on the line surrounding it and change the number of segments or the radius, or change what layer it's on. We'll get into layers a little bit later. One really cool tool in SketchUp is the PushPull Tool. This actually allows you to extrude surfaces into 3D. To do so, just click on one of the surfaces and pull up the face into 3D. It's a really quick way to make a massing rather than drawing out a rectangle and then drawing out each individual side of the cube. And this actually allows you to change or manipulate surfaces and the size of objects pretty quickly. If we draw a rectangle on the top of this cube and we grab the push-pull tool, we can see that we can either pull up that particular face or push it all the way through. If you actually push this surface all the way through to the other face behind it, it will delete that area of the massing. If we wanted to make a circle and push that all the way through to make a hole, we can actually reference this end point, and that tells it to snap to this face behind it. And what it does is it actually cuts out that hole. Or if we wanted to, we could actually pull this out and reference this face so that this tube is the same distance as this area right here. Now if we wanted to use the move tool, we can actually move different aspects of each shape, or we can move the whole shape. If we wanted to select this whole cylinder, we could grab our selection tool and actually draw a bounding box around it. If you drag this bounding box from left to right, it selects everything inside the bounding box. You'll see that we selected this surface. If you draw it from right to left, it will select everything that it touches. So if we draw a bounding box around this cone, this cylinder, and we grab the move tool, we can actually move this whole cylinder and pretty much put it wherever we want it. Or if we wanted to move just this surface, we could select that surface with the selection tool and just move that. This goes for the same on any shape. If we select this line and grab the move tool, we can actually move this line down. Since the other surfaces share that line, the surfaces will be moved with it. Or again, we could select this face and move it up. One thing to make you really fast in SketchUp is to have shortcuts. If you don't remember anything about this video except for shortcuts, you will be pretty well off. To make shortcuts, you can go up to Window, go down to Preferences, and you'll see you have a Shortcuts menu. It has a filter to find what tool you're looking for. So say we were looking for the Move tool. I have it assigned as Q. A lot of people like to make their shortcuts the same as other programs that they use. So when you're going through and using SketchUp, make shortcuts for a lot of the tools that you use most often. It will speed you up quite a bit. So let's go ahead and make something. Get rid of these shapes. We can either start a new file, or we could hit Control A for select all and then just hit delete. Let's make a little house. So we'll grab your rectangle tool, draw a rectangle, grab your push-pull tool, pull it up. We'll make a slanted roof, so we'll grab the line tool, we'll draw a line across the top in the green axis direction. We'll grab the move tool, hover over that line, and pull it up. You'll see now that we have our main part of our house. So we can make a shed on the side, and to do that there's a couple different ways. We could grab the line tool and actually shape out this shed and then shape out the base. Now, if I'm making the outside of the shed and I want the slope of the shed to be the same with the roof, I can actually reference the roof, the slope of it. So if I have this line go up in the blue axis and hold shift to lock it in the blue axis, no matter where I put my cursor, the line will stay going in that direction. And I can actually hover over this surface here to have the same slope as this roof. So I can click here and then click on this endpoint to close that surface. And you'll see here that this line we just created is the same slope as the roof. So we can grab the push-pull tool and pull that across. Now you'll see when we did that, it actually reversed this face. So if we want to bring that back to white, we can right click and hit reverse face. The front of any face is white and the back is blue. You can change that in styles. If you go up to window styles, you have some default styles that you can change. But we'll just leave it the way it is for now. So I'll show you a quick way to make some copies of our house. Go ahead and select the building by drawing a bounding box, and then we're going to grab the move tool, and we're going to actually move this house in the green direction and make a copy of it. If you hit the control key while moving it, it actually creates a copy. So go ahead and move it into white space. Click. Now, one cool tool to make multiple copies is called the array. If I wanted to make 5 copies of this house, I could type in 5 multiply and then hit enter, and it'll actually make 5 copies of it. Or say I wanted to make 5 copies of it in between 2 endpoints. So if I selected the house, hit control, and moved the copy down to say the end of the block, and I wanted 5 copies of that house to be equal distances in between there, I could actually divide them into it by hitting 5 and then the divide and enter. Another type of array is called the rotate copy. So if you grab your selection tool and select all of these and grab the rotate tool, I have a shortcut for it. So if we're going to make a copy around a circle, we just pick the center point, click once, and you'll see that it gives you this this line following your cursor. Click on the point of the house, and you'll see that it rotates it from the center point that you selected. If you wanted to make a copy of this, you could hit control, and you can see that it made a copy of it. You could type in a specific degree, say 20, enter, and it rotated it 20 degrees. We can actually make 5 copies of this going in the same rotation. So if you type in 5 multiply, hit enter, it created 5 copies from that center of rotation that you made. So let's make some detail to our house. We'll go a couple steps back so that we have our one house. If you hit Control Z a couple times, it'll bring us back to our one house. Now I'm going to talk about groups and components. If you'll notice now, if we highlight this shed and try and move it away from the house, that it's stuck on that plane. This is because it shares some of the attributes of the surfaces that are connecting them. So if we wanted to make this house and this shed into separate models, we can group them. So what we'll do is we'll draw a bounding box from right to left, and we'll select the shed, we'll right click and hit make group. So now that tells SketchUp that this shed is a separate entity than the house. One thing you might want to notice when you're making a component, hit back a couple times, is that if you draw the bounding box including the surface that connects them, and you make it a group, then it takes that surface with it. If you select it without that surface will remain with the house. I'm going to talk about components. Components are really helpful and a really big time saver. If you make this house a component, draw a bounding box around it, right click, make component. This create component window pops up. You can name it, give it a description, set the axes, and always make sure that replace selection with components checked, and that takes all of this geometry and makes it into a component, and hit create. Now that this is a component, I'll show you what is helpful about it. If I copy this house, these two houses now know each other and share the same attributes. So if I grab our selection tool and I double click on the house, that enters you into that component. So now you are editing inside that group or component. You'll notice that any changes that you make to this house are mirrored on the other one. This is really helpful if you have, many houses. If you have many houses, make a few copies of them. 10 times enter. And you don't want to change every single house. Say you wanted to add a doorknob and a door to the front of our house, and you didn't want to change every single one. That, since they're components, they know each other, and any change you make to one will be made to the others. You'll see that all the houses have doors now. This is a really helpful tool if you have multiple models that you're trying to make edits to. If you don't know what to make a component, your safest bet is to just make everything a component, so that farther down the line they're already components and it saves you time. So let's add a little more detail to our houses. We're going to bring in some brick and some roofing textures. SketchUp has its own default textures. You can also bring in your own. If you grab the paint bucket tool, you'll see the materials window pops up, and you can actually click on this drop down menu and it gives you a list of different types of textures. So let's choose some wood and we'll paint our door. So we have to make sure that we're editing inside of our component. So to do that, go ahead and grab the selection tool, double click on it, and we can paint anything inside this component. You want to make sure that if it's grouped or made a component that you don't paint outside of it. To grab a texture, you can either click on one of the textures over here in your options window, or you can grab the bucket tool and then click. If you paint outside of the texture, you'll notice that you aren't editing the component. Sorry, if you click outside the component, you aren't editing the component. So you want to make sure that if you're going to add textures to your component, that you're inside your component. So grab your selection tool and double click to enter your component. Grab some wood. You click on your door, and we're going to grab some brick. We'll paint the outside of the house. It's a real simple model, just to give you an idea of using textures and painting them. Grab some roofing. If you erase this line, it will connect these two surfaces. Paint that again. And you'll see that it has made all the changes to our components. So again, making components is a really big time saver. Just like the textures, SketchUp actually has a list of components in their library that you can use. The 3D warehouse is a collection of components that people can actually upload components that they have made onto it, and you can go online and pick components, bring them into your model, or you can make your own components and upload them to the 3D warehouse. So we'll grab some components. Go to Window, open your Components browser, and just like the textures, you have a drop-down menu, and you have a list of components that you can choose from. You also have a list of components that are in your model. If you click on the In Model button, it looks like a little house. You can see that you have one component in your model, and that's the one that we made, this house. So we're going to add some trees. So we can go down to Landscape. Oh, you want to make sure that you have internet connected when you do this. Make sure you have an internet connection, and when you have this drop down menu, you can go to Landscape, and we'll grab some trees. And what it does is it searches the 3D warehouse. So we'll find some plants, trees, and you can just grab, we'll make it a palm tree. So when you click on this component right here, it actually puts it on your cursor and you can place it anywhere in your model. Now, one trick that I like to use, if you wanted a tree to be next to each house and you didn't want to individually put a tree next to each one, a really quick way to do that would be to cut and paste it inside the component. That way it'll be inside all of the other ones. So if you grab your selection tool, select the component, and hit Control X, and then double click on your component to go into it. I actually have a shortcut for paste in place, but if you don't, you can go to Edit, Paste in Place, and you'll see that I pasted it inside the component, so it placed it next to all of the other components. This is another quick way to save some time. That way you don't have to place it next to each house. So just to go a little bit more in depth in the components browser in the 3D warehouse, say we wanted to add some more detail, we could go to People, and we could actually place people. Our house is a little bit out of scale, but we could actually place people around and add as much detail as you wanted. It's just a quick way to bring components into your model. You can also search for components by typing them into the 3D Warehouse search bar, and actually finds it from the 3D Warehouse online, and you can just bring them right into your model. So I'm going to show you another tool called the Offset tool. So let's go ahead and close down our entity info and component windows, and let's get rid of these houses. So either Control A or a bounding box with your selection tool and hit delete. And we're going to make a building with a parapet around the roof. So grab your rectangle tool, draw a rectangle, and we're going to add some detail to it. So grab your arc tool and click along this edge, and then click again along this edge. And if you pull it out, you'll see that it will snap to a half circle. So snap it to half circle and click, creates a face. Now we want this to be centered on this line, but since we've already broke this line, we don't have an endpoint to reference to, or a midpoint. So what we're going to do is we're going to reference it to the opposite line. So go ahead and select this surface. If you double click, it selects the surface. Grab your move tool, and what you want to do is you want to find the center of that half circle. Go ahead and click, and if you move it along the green axis, you can lock it by holding shift, and we're going to reference it to this midpoint. So just hover over this line until you find the midpoint, and then click, and now it's in the center. Let's go ahead and pull this up into a building. So we'll get rid of this line so that it's one surface, and then we'll make a line over here for a deck. Grab your push-pull tool, and we'll pull this up. And then we'll pull this up for a deck. We'll reference the halfway midpoint. Now you'll see down in your distance box that it's pretty far out of scale for a building, that if we were making a building. It says 645 feet. So what we can do is, instead of going all the way back and starting over and measuring it to scale, we can actually rescale this model. Quick way to do that is just grab the tape measure tool, and we'll make this 20 feet tall. So if you click on this bottom point, go up to the top, click again, you can type in 20 feet and then hit enter, and this option window comes up and asks you if you want to resize your model. Just hit yes. And now the height of your model is 20 feet, and everything else is to that scale. So since we lined this up to the midway point, this is 10 feet. It's a little bit more realistic of a building size. So we'll get rid of that guide. Now we're going to add an edging around this roof by using the offset tool. So if you grab this offset tool over here in your toolbars, you can hover over the top, or you can pre-select the surface by clicking on it with your selection tool. And click once, and you'll see that it's offsetting that line into that surface. So we want to make a precise 1 foot offset. So rather than bringing it in and eyeing it, we can just type in 1 foot, enter, and you'll see that it created an offset of the roof. So we can push-pull this down. We'll do 3 feet, hit enter. And we want to do the same for this deck. So one way to do it is referencing the offset that we did up here. So if you grab your offset tool, hover over this line, click once, you'll notice that it offset all 4 sides, and we only want to do the outside 3 sides. So what we're going to do is we're going to pre-select these outside 3 lines. Now if you just click one after the other, it will just select the next line. So what we want to do is we want to select all 3 of them at the same time. So just like making a copy, if you hold the Control key, you can actually select multiple items. So we're going to hold the Control key down and select all 3 of these lines. Grab the offset tool, and now it's going to offset just those 3 lines. Now to make it the same distance offset as the first one, we can just reference this endpoint and it'll tell it to do a 1 foot offset. And grab the push-pull tool, pull the wall up 3 feet, enter. And now we have our deck. Another cool tool is the Follow Me tool. So say we wanted to add a little more detail to the edge of our building. We can grab our line tool and let's just draw out a little edging around the side of our building. So we'll trace a little piece that we want the edging to be, the shape that we want it to be. And we can actually pre-select the path, or we can grab the Follow Me tool, click and release, and since we pre-selected it there, it actually followed it all the way around that surface. Another option would be to click and release, and you can actually drag it along each surface. And you'll see that it added that nice little detail to the edge of the building. That's kind of a cool tool. So we can add a door, maybe a little frame, grab the offset tool. You can see that it brought some extra geometry down here, so we can just erase that. Maybe push-pull this out a little bit. So just take some time and add some detail to this model, just to kind of get a feel for using some of the tools that you've learned about. So this was an introduction to some of the basic features of SketchUp. Some of the tools are pretty basic, but used together they can do some pretty complex stuff, and I hope it was helpful, and thanks for listening.